Today, like you can see in front of you, we're going to be talking about character design, but the physical portion, because there are two kind of halves to character design. There's the physical portion of character design and the written portion of character design. We're not going to be talking about writing today. We are just going to be talking about how to design somebody right in front of you, right? So we're going to be talking about their physical design properties, how to make a good character, how to make an interesting character, and then we'll be doing a cyberpunk character together. But there are always a good few things to keep in mind when you're illustrating a character, right? So number one, right, is how do I make them interesting? And how do I make them feel like they belong, right? Especially if you're writing for a story, you're writing for a game, something like that, you want to make sure that they feel as though they fit within whatever setting you're designing. And you want to make sure that they're interesting as well, right? You don't want to kind of sit and look at a main character that kind of looks like your average everything else, right? So here's the checklist that you can kind of give yourself, right, when you're designing. Number one is the setting, right? So what's the time period, which is the when? Advanced or rudimentary, within reality, or alternate universe, right? So when is this in time? Your character, where are they going to be placed? You're going to be designing somebody that is at a period of time, whether that is the current time or if that's in like the past or the future or a different reality altogether. A steampunk character will be differently designed than a cyberpunk character. So we want to make sure that we are designing for the time period. Number two is their role, right? What is this character's role? What kind of character are they? All right, are they a main character, a secondary, a tertiary character, or a background character? So the main character, right, you want to spend the most attention on. The background character will have the least, right? There's a hierarchy, right? You're obviously going to spend a lot of time on designing the main character versus designing a background character, right? Your main character is what people are going to be seeing 99% of the time. That's the character that they're going to be focusing on. That's the one that they'll see the majority of the time they want. You want them to focus on that. But the majority of the time, you want to make sure that your main characters look the most interesting and are the most interesting. And what do they do? Your role is going to be kind of the what. So what do they do, right? That's mostly occupation or how they fit in the story universe. So that could be, are they the hero or the villain, merchant, friend, rival? That will also kind of attribute and add on to their character, right? And how do they fit within the story or the universe? Based on that role, that will also affect the way that you design them. That'll also affect the way that they should look. Number three, third thing you want to think about, are they literal? Because this has to deal with ironic versus literal design. Ironic versus literal design, right? So literal design is that they look very literal. You see an artist, they look like an artist, right? Whether that's like paint splatters everywhere. Maybe they have a sketchbook. Maybe they dress a little bit funkier. Or maybe if they're like a business person, they probably dress a little bit more formally. If they're royalty, they'll probably have bigger, more flowing attire, something a little bit more regal looking, right? You wouldn't dress up a royal person as a peasant. Or if they're ironic design, his appearance doesn't match the character. Oops. You'll see this sometimes in media when you have like maybe a bigger character, like a bigger intimidating character, but they end up being like really shy or really soft or angry. You know, somebody looks very soft, but they end up being like the angriest one of them all. That's ironic design. With ironic design, you need to be careful. Literal and ironic character designs tend to be rooted in stereotypes. So be mindful of what you're illustrating. If you are working with ironic or literal design, right, they tend to be rooted in stereotypes. Especially, it's like, that's what I was kind of like saying before, right? What does an artist look like? All artists kind of look different, but you have like the very stereotypical, you know, kind of dresses up really weird and always has paint splatters and always has, you know, something like that, right? Whatever, right? Artists might like their quote-unquote personalities might be a little more exaggerated, stuff like that, right? That's a little bit more of a lighthearted example, right? But at the same time, you want to make sure that your literal designs and ironic designs are not offensive in any way, right? So you got to be mindful. Make sure that if you're doing it sensitively. All right, now number four, variety is key. No two people are exactly alike, so your characters shouldn't be either, right? No two people are exactly alike. No two people that you see on the streets will be exactly alike. Even twins, and even if their visual aspects are very, very similar, their personalities will probably be very different. All right, so then that could be the age, that's body type, socio-economic class, height, etc. Right, your age, your body type, height. You want to make sure that your characters look different. Though they look different, they should have unity. Too much unity equals static. Too similar designs. Too much variety creates inconsistency. Right, so unity and variety are both principles of design. They're unity and your variety. Unity and variety need to work together in order to make interest. I usually say that for like an entire art piece, but the exact same thing goes for character design. Right, if you have too much unity, then everything becomes static or too similar. If you have too much variety, on the other hand, then it can feel inconsistent. It can feel kind of chaotic. It can feel all over the place, right? That's why you need the mix of the two. Your unity should be done with the roles and the setting, right? Your characters should all appear within the same setting if they're, within a single area, right? If you're writing about fantasy, then you're going to want to make sure that every character looks like they're in that fantasy universe. You don't want to have like a random cyberpunk character in the middle of your medieval fantasy. And if you give them too much variety, that it can look a little bit strange. So this last one seems to contradict this one, but that's why it's hard, right? It's less is more. Less is more. I'm writing this really, really big because not everybody knows this one. First, it's that an interesting character does not have to be super detailed. Use less colors, use simpler palettes, single motif, simpler forms, right? 99% of the time you want your comic characters to be fairly simple because that's who you're going to be drawing a bajillion times. If you're going to draw this character in this beautiful, giant, intricate outfit or these like crazy robotic parts, keep in mind you're going to have to do that for hundreds of pages. Do you really want to subject yourself to that? And even still, an interesting character does not need to be super detailed, right? Think of some of the most popular characters that you can think of right now. The most popular icons, right? Like I mentioned, Kirby. He's 2 colors, like 2 to 3 colors at the max. If we don't count that black and white, super, super simple, super easy to recognize. Like most people know Kirby, even more people know Mario. Does that mean that they don't have to be detailed? Not at all, right? Think of anybody from Genshin Impact. Those aren't simple characters, but think of the media that they come from, right? But that is going to be our written portion for today. I said I was going to be doing a cyberpunk character, so that's what we're going to be doing today. What I'm actually going to do is I'm going to do the concept artist's gray to begin with, and that tends to be to help your eyes, so it's a little bit easier to stare at this background. This way it can also give me a better idea of the lighting. All right, so I'm going to be doing a very upside down triangle kind of character. I've been drawing a lot of men, so I'm going to be doing a woman. More effeminate character. And because this is just the design, I'm not going to be thinking about a pose at all. I want to make sure that I'm showing off the entire character, not just their look within a pose. This is very conceptual. So what you're trying to show instead is just the character themselves. What I take inspiration from is not technological. It's very, very organic. I love organic. Go towards. So when I design things that are technological, I take inspiration from nature instead. When you're drawing robots, I don't actually recommend that you look up robots. Unless you need it for very technical purposes. I actually recommend that you look up natures. One of my old teachers, one of the best pieces of advice that I got from him was that you can be as creative as you want, you'll never be as creative as Mother Nature herself. To actually take that inspiration, because the world around you is far more creative than anybody else, anybody in this world. Usually when you're designing a character, you're trying to figure out all the shapes that they have first, their shape language. Make sure that their silhouette is interesting. I kind of wanted a very bottom-heavy silhouette, so I have a very upside-down triangle kind of character. I might actually want to thin out the shoulders a little bit more. So if you'd like all those layers, be sure to check out our Patreon, where for as little as $2 a month, you can support the channel, and for just $5 a month, you can get access to working files. You'll get behind the scenes of $2 a month, but $5 a month is what gets you all the working files and extra little perks that come along with seeing behind you. This triangle doesn't match this shape though, because everything else is very square-like and circular, so I could probably just fix this shape so it's more like a straight edge blade. Yeah, so it's more like a box cutter. I think that feels a little bit better, because you want to make sure that your shape language is also consistent. Now that means we can get to color! Yay! Palette's going to be pretty simple. I don't really want to do anything too crazy with the palette. Keep it nice and kind of like single toned. I want the accent color to be a light blue. That's just always my favorite cyberpunk color. It's just a light blue. Because if you have your accent color be super, super bright, you're going to want the majority of the rest of your colors to be super, super dark. The fun thing about choosing skin tone is that skin tone is actually considered a neutral color. Because it's a brown, it is technically a, you know, a version of brown, right? So, right, whatever you choose, it won't interfere with your color theory.
If you liked what you saw, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe so you never miss an upload. Join our community with the links down below. If you'd like to support the channel and the creation of free arts education, become a member on Patreon for working files, behind-the-scenes posts, and discounts on our class offerings. If you enjoyed this video, here's a couple other videos you can check out next.